Yeah, I'm going to talk about how to develop and execute a conversion optimization strategy. So there's going to be some, high level, why you should test, how to test. We're going to get right into some tactics and frameworks that you can take back to the office as well and improve your conversion channels. So I'll get right into it now by starting with where I see some challenges and things that are happening in the conversion optimization space. Talk about how some companies are running into difficulties with their conversions and how you can take some of these frameworks, Kaizen, the lift model, and apply them to your websites. All right? So first of all, we're seeing that conversion rate dissatisfaction is growing. More and more companies year over year are saying that they need to improve their conversion rate. They understand that this is a priority. They don't need to just drive traffic. They need more conversions. But at the same time, they're finding more difficulty in improving their conversion rate. Year over year, 5% more companies are reporting that they haven't been able to improve their conversion rate, even though they're spending more effort there. Which is why this year, it's actually tied with content marketing as the #1 strategy, the #1 priority for digital marketers, improving conversion rates. And we've been talking with a few of you today, and it sounds like this is the conversation that's been happening this week already. And so you understand what I'm saying, but they're not seeing the results that they want, right? They're having challenges with it. It's because they're generally doing it wrong. And a lot of you have probably seen some good success with your conversion testing. Some of you may have been frustrated, running into barriers with it. So I'm going to show you how to do it, how we found, anyway, that a way that works with some frameworks that you can use. So I can't speak for everyone. Just for ourselves, what we're seeing is average conversion rate lifts for companies that haven't done a lot of testing, or maybe they've been getting into it, of 23% for e-commerce, 49% for generating leads in improved conversion rates when they enable the type of conversion strategy we're talking about today. So let's take a look at a quick example. This is for Electronic Arts. Now, we've been working with several different groups within EA. They had a big new game release coming out for EA Sports. They had a 3-step conversion path, and they needed to get more free trial downloads. A lot of you are in the freemium model, very similar model to what they're doing here. And what this will show is how some small changes can make a pretty significant impact in conversion rates. Then we'll look at some other examples as well a bit later. So here was the control page. Now, this was after the landing page. We'd already done a bunch of testing on the landing page to get more people into the conversion funnel. This was the start of a 3-step conversion funnel to download the game, right? So it was a beta sign-up. You could log in, or if you don't have an EA account, you could create one. And most people had EA accounts. They were targeting their list of their other game players. But so that's the control page. We analyzed it, and I'll show you how to do that in a moment, and came up with 3 variations to test in this test against that control. This was the first one, where it was pretty significantly redesigned. It had a headline, register to play for free. So value proposition, log into the EA account, or don't have one, you can register there. So that was what we call a variable cluster test, right? We've done a whole bunch of changes, redesigned something, and we're putting it out there to test. Now, we also included some isolations. So in this one, we added in this steps indicator, right? Step 1, step 2, step 3, on top of the login. And the third variation, we changed the orientation of the fields from a stacked fields to horizontal fields. So the question is, which one had the highest conversion rate to free signups? How many think variation A won? Okay. How many are voting for B? Okay. How many C? How many have decided not to vote? Right. Okay. I see you. We'll get you on the next one. That's all right. Okay. So we had 2 people, I think, voting for A. Well, that one actually won. 12.8% increase in conversion rates. And to them, this was a critical driver for their business. They had a limited time frame to ramp up their subscribers so they could flip to the paid model and upsell them. So that was helpful to them. But what was actually interesting as well is they generated a lot of insights from this through the isolations of just these small changes that can make a dramatic improvement. And it turned out that those steps indicator, which is like a best practice for forms with multiple steps, actually hurt their conversions. So they couldn't just take the supposed best practices and apply it and expect it to work. All right, so I'm going to talk about 2 things today. One is how to get results, and the other is how to get insights. So the reason I've split them up, and I'm talking about two things, everyone wants to talk about results, and results are great. You can't argue with getting conversion rate lift, right? It's cute, it's cuddly, it's fuzzy, it's warm, it's what you want, until you see the power of marketing insights that come from testing, okay? And the good thing is that getting these insights actually leads to better results, right? So it's a virtuous cycle. So the number one tip I'm going to give you, if you can take anything away from today, if you only remember one thing, it's this: that best practices are dead. That best practices in conversion don't work. That all the tips and tricks you can find online on these, conversion guru blogs, and you can call me a guru if you want. I don't know what you want to call it, but conversion optimization expert. I think this year they're called ninjas, right? So we're all conversion ninjas. But they don't apply. They're not generalizable to your business because your business is in a unique situation. And so the only thing that really matters is how do you find the insights that are applicable to you that can improve your particular situation, for your target audience, for your product mix, for your business strategy. For example, I have a couple examples here that are just interesting because you've probably heard advice about these security symbols, right? McAfee symbols, Norton, whatever other symbols you've got. And I've heard conversion consultants say that if you've got these things, you should put them as prominently as possible on your website, right? Put them in your header, put them by your calls to action, put them everywhere. But when you actually test it, sometimes that doesn't work. We tested this on an e-commerce site and put this symbol right by the checkout. So it's the site-wide persistent call to action area, and it ended up actually hurting their sales. This one reduced their sales by 1.6%. This guy, he's taking this advice to the nth degree, right? How much more security can you get on this website? But does that make you want to shop from them? I like to sometimes take cues from the bricks and mortar retailers because they've been perfecting the shopping experience for hundreds of years. Just look at this. Warm plush carpets, welcoming, muted lighting. You can almost smell the leather sort of wafting out, right, and inviting you in. So would you rather shop here or in a high security environment? These guys make you pull out your wallet, but it's not because you want to, right? So the problem is that there's a lot of people out there giving advice that's not founded on testing. There's a lot of people, you think about how recent testing technology has been widely available. And yet all the best practices we have about design, about copywriting, about interaction, usability, have probably been around a lot longer. So where was it from? Where did all those commonly best held common sense practices come from? They've probably never been tested. So here's another example. I went to Forever 21 just thinking about, from the visitor's perspective, how they interact with this website. So imagine you're a shopper. Now, I don't personally shop at Forever 21, but I can put myself in their shoes and imagine I'm looking for pants or something, right? So you see this homepage, and it's advertising leather. Well, great, that's not what I'm here for, but from the visitor's perspective, I've got to figure out how to use this site first. Every website is different. So I'm thinking, okay, where would I find products? Where would I find pants? And, but this leather actually looks kind of attractive, and $17.80, that's a good deal. Now, where's that button? Oh, there's a weird shop now button. Okay, and I'm about to actually realize that I'm really interested in this, and I'm going to click on it, and it changes. Now I'm talking about pants. Oh, good. Well, I was interested in pants, but now I'm kind of interested in that leather offer because that was a good deal. So how do I get back to that? Now I've got to figure out the usability of this new thing, and as I'm about to click back, it changes again. Now I'm looking at long sleeves, right? This is one of the most common usability interaction interfaces on websites today. B2B, B2C, everywhere. And yet every time we test this, it loses. So I don't know where this originally came from, but some designer probably said, you know what, I'm out of space. What am I going to do? I'm going to make another space. Here we go, right? But from a visitor's perspective, from a usability perspective, it kills conversion rates. Now, we know where this actually really came from. It's because of the gene pool of marketers or something, where we've known for many, many years that all of the advancements in our society, reduced infant mortality, longer lifespan, technology, iPads, iPhones, cloud, all comes from science, right? That's where it originates. And yet marketers refuse to be tested. Marketers are this strange subspecies of humanity that believe that our gut feeling is better than anyone else's, is better than testing, right? We just know what works. So you all know. I mean, I'm speaking to the choir here, right? You know that you need to be testing, but what I want to show you is how to test to get results, because testing alone isn't the only key component to getting good results. How you test is very important. So let's start with the 3 components of conversion optimization. I believe conversion optimization is the intersection of 3 things. One is persuasion marketing, where the conversion strategist understands how to create motivation in their prospects' minds. This is about creating a compelling value proposition that's relevant to them. And you can test in this to find out how to move them to action. That value proposition is only one component, though. The second is the experience design, right? How do you facilitate that action? Once they have motivation, how do you get them through the conversion funnel? And then third is the scientific method, and that's where conversion optimization sits. But what's interesting is we see people coming at it from different angles. A lot of people, if they come from a marketing background, will think that it's all about persuasion. It's all about using, psychological tricks to get people to convert. Some people coming from usability will think it's all about checking off the user experience checkboxes, right? And a lot of people, of course, aren't testing at all. But when you look holistically at all of these components, you can come up with better hypotheses, get better results by actually solving the problems that people are facing. So I'm going to show you a little bit how to do that. First of all, a number that's important to understand, 200%. What that is the value of a structured testing process. I didn't just make that up. That was a study by eConsultancy. And what they did is they looked at organizations that were doing conversion optimization. And they said, what they saw is for those that reported having a structured process for improving conversion rates, they were twice as likely to also report large increases in sales. So just having a conversion optimization strategy alone wasn't giving them the results. Having a structured process that's defined, that's disciplined, that they go through every time was key to getting results. Okay, so I'm going to show you those frameworks that we're using, that we're getting results with, and you can apply them to your website as well, take them back to the organization. You've got the book as well that gives you a lot more detail, and it's great that Cleverbridge has provided that, so you can get into all the details, how to execute that. So the frameworks that we're talking about, they've been used across industries. The reason I show this is that to show that it works regardless of the industry you're in. B2B, B2C, obviously e-commerce, generating leads, if there's some affiliate work going on. And it starts with a structured process that has 2 phases. Phase 1 is developing the strategy. And this is a lot of times what people are skipping in understanding how to prioritize where to test, how to understand your goals, and understanding your customer. Okay, so starting off with some discovery, this is what we do, including heuristic analysis of the website by looking at examples of what's worked in the past, web analytics, obviously, to see how people are using your website and conversion funnels, some customer research including voice of customer, any persona information, really getting into the shoes of the customer. Now, what's important here is to get out of the shoes of the marketer, get into your prospect's mind, and a lot of things in voice of customer, using user testing, surveys on your website, those kind of things to get their real voice and how they're speaking and how they refer to your product can really get into their head and think about your website from their eyes. And then from all of this data, what you want to come out with is a plan for how to prioritize where to test. And I'm going to show you how to do that. One of the frameworks we use called the PI framework for prioritizing tests. Okay, so then once you are completed phase 1, you've got a strategy, you can go into the ongoing phase, which is the testing cycle. And I'll show you how to do that as well, and the order of the steps that's important to getting the best results. Okay, so that's a high-level view. We'll get into some of the details. First of all, the plan. All right, the first thing to do in developing the plan, and this is going to sound obvious to some of you, it's developing your goals and understanding your goals, but it's amazing how many companies we go in and talk to, and there really is no clarity about what we need to optimize for. A lot of people are still optimizing for Facebook likes, and Twitter follows, and how much revenue does that actually make for your business? And there's some confusion there. So the way to think about it, the way I like to think about it is a waterfall. This is the goals waterfall, where you start with your business goals. Why are you in business? Why are you here? What do you do that offers value to the customer? We've heard about value earlier. That leads towards your marketing goals. That should lead to your website and your conversion optimization goals. And if there isn't a direct line of sight between conversion optimization and the business goals, then there's a problem, right? Misalignment there. But a lot of people in digital marketing are talking about things that don't drive business revenue. So, for example, let's look at another example from EA. This was for Sims 3. And Sims, I don't know if you've heard of the game. It's a very popular game. It's been around for quite a few years. Started in a desktop version. They've gone to online now. And what they needed to do was improve their community activation. They needed more of their players to be involved in the community because that's what drives more of their business results. And they were having a challenge with their game registrations. Most of the people that were installing the game just weren't registering. So this was one page that we actually worked on. It's actually within their app. When you install the game, you get a little icon on your desktop. You click on it and you open up this launcher window. And the right-hand side is pulled from a website, so it's sort of like a browser emulator thing there. And then on the left side, this was all the utilities for the game. So you click the button to play, or this right-hand side, you have all of these other actions you can do. But when you look at it, there could be some confusion about what's the real goal of this page. How does it drive business results, right? There's news about the company. There's sim points bundles being offered. There's additions for the game, some more additions for the game, and there's a sign up now button. So which one has the most prominence? Which one's actually driving business results? When we actually did the workshops with them and to figure it out, it turns out that right there, that button, is the only thing they really need from this page. And yet, look at all the space that news is taking up. I mean, most of you, I'll bet you if you looked at your homepage right now, there's probably a prominent section with your news. Who cares? Like, do your customers care about that your CEO just got a new Porsche or whatever the latest news is about the organization? So thinking about from their perspective and what really drives results can help you. It's the first major step in optimizing for the right things. The next challenge is to prioritize where to test. So that launcher window was just one of many customer interaction points, many touch points for the organization. So how do you know where you're going to get the biggest bang for your effort? And some people, again, are skipping over this step because it seems obvious, like our landing pages or our home page, right? That's the most important page on the website, to start with at least. But often it's not. And what I'm going to show you are how to prioritize those. So this is how to think about your website or your conversion funnel, whether or not it's in a website, if it's in in an app store or whatever. Your customers go through the same steps. There's the persuasional end of the landing pages. Gets them to stick on the site, gets them to stick on the page, gets them to stick on your marketing and understand why you're there. Then the informational stage, right? They've got some interest, now they're looking for information, they're making a considered purchase. Then the transactional end, which is what Cleverbridge takes care of here. How do you get them through to the transaction and through to the money? But a lot of people are focused, if they're doing any testing, on landing pages, thinking that that's where you're going to get the best results, when there's all kinds of other opportunities as well that may be just as or more important. Especially if you've got multiple products, if you've got a catalog type of a site. There may be other aggregate templates that can be very important to the business that you can be testing on. So here's how to prioritize it. We use something called the pie prioritization framework. And very simply what we do is look at 3 factors that will tell you which are the most important areas to focus on. the potential, importance, and ease. And so we actually end up making a list of all of the pages and templates and landing pages and websites and looking at what's the potential for improvement. So this involves heuristic analysis, right? Saying, okay, so basically, from what we've seen in the past, how crappy is this page, right? How much improvement can it make? And then looking at voice of customer input. Putting those little pop-up questionnaires on your website, just temporarily, to get feedback. Some of the best voice of customer areas can be on thank you pages after they've converted, to ask them, how was this? What did we not give you that you could have had on this experience? What almost made you stop the purchase or stop the download can be an important question. And that will give you some insights into where the problem areas on the website. And then the importance. So for each page, what's the traffic volume? What's the total reach of this page? What's the cost of the traffic coming in here? Are you paying affiliates, or is there paid search involved? Is there content marketing that you're paying to produce, right? And then the ease of implementation, which includes technical and political ease. So is the CEO looking at the homepage? Is that something you should avoid because there's a lot of political problems there, right? A lot of fingers in the pie. So we actually use this with every project that we start with and come out and create a table that looks very similar to this. So we'll detail all of the potential tests, rank them based on potential importance and ease, and come up with a weighted average factor that then becomes a discussion point, right? Is this really the most important area? Should these factors change? And then this gives you an ongoing strategy for where is the most important place to put your effort for improvement. It becomes really just a practical tool that you can use within the team to make sure everyone's focused on the same thing. Because often there's disagreements. Actually, we started with a client not too long ago, and they came with their ideas of where they should start testing, and the highest priority areas they had were these 4 landing pages, because they were the worst performers of the highest volume pages, right? And that was the rationale for doing it, which seems fair. I mean, that's reasonable. But when you take into consideration the actual importance to the organization, how much revenue does this page really touch, it dropped to the bottom of the list because there were other areas that were much more important to the business, right? So this makes sure that we're taking into account everything in the company. Okay, so you got your prioritized list of pages, and then phase 2 starts, and this is where the ongoing testing happens. Ongoing iterative testing where you're constantly getting new insights. So for Sims, we ended up testing a whole bunch of things. Here are 2, and what we have for variation A is the main emphasis on registering the game and getting free content. So some samples of the content. You could shop at the store, you can get free downloads that you can add to your game right away. With a big green button right at the top. Variation B is registering your game and get 1,000 free sim points, and that you could use to get anything you want to add to your game. And those were 3 images of the most popular sets that you could download. So it's kind of like a Second Life thing where you can download new elements of the game, and you've got your own little person walking around that you control and tell them to have breakfast and go to sleep and do all this stuff. Apparently it's a lot of fun. I don't know, I've never tried. But okay, so which one do you think won? Was it variation A focused on getting free content from the store and the exchange, or B, getting 1,000 sim points to spend however you want? Okay, I'm going to think A. Okay, who's going for B? All right, so it's close to 50-50 on that one. Now imagine the typical scenario, right? You're in your boardroom, you've hired your digital agency to come up with new page designs for your most important page for your business. How do you choose which one goes live? A lot of people are using the HIPPO method, right? You're familiar with the HIPPO method? The highest paid person's opinion, right? They point to the one that they like, and that goes live. Some other people are using the black turtleneck method, right? The guy who comes in with the sunglasses and the black yeah. Okay, so fortunately, Sims decided to use the scientific method and tested which one worked, and this one lifted their game registrations by 79%. That's a 79% increase in the growth of their database that they can now market to sell more assets to sell more games to. So if you voted for B, give yourself a raise. I mean, that's huge, right? Okay, here's another one. Variation A changed. B is the same. A says register your game and get a free town. So it's focused on one asset that you can download versus 1,000 free sim points to choose anything you want. All right, so which worked? A with the free town. B with the 1,000 points. All right, so we've got about a 30-70 for B. Oh, that was unfortunate. But look at that, 128% lift, so good thing they tested it. But you know what was interesting is that they've also got a marketing insight from this, is that what they found through a series of tests that we ran is that for that particular audience, certain tangible assets had a huge lift in their marketing persuasiveness. And yet, you'd think if you give people choice, they could buy the same thing because they'd have sim points, but that reduced the effectiveness because it gave them all kinds of distraction, all kinds of other elements to think about. So what they found, and this was just one of many variations we tested, but what they found is that, again, the types of offers that work better for this were specific types of tangible offers. And this actually then impacted the organization. This wasn't just a marketing insight or improvement. They actually started hiring more developers to build the kinds of assets that they found would improve their marketing, so they could have more effectiveness in generating whatever goals they needed to achieve. So this is where, to a certain extent, I get on my soapbox a bit as well. And a lot of times I think the word conversion optimization itself is just terrible. Like it puts us into thinking about just this piddly little metric, in your analytics department, your conversion rate, when really the process and discipline of testing can lead so much more power into the organization of actually understanding insights from a scientific method, what really works. And conversion rate is just one indicator, right? It's just the indicator of the business results that you're getting for. It's not the end goal. So anyway, so they got marketing insights. So what I want to show you is how to get great results, right? Okay, so testing is important. That's the entry point to getting results. But how you get great results is asking great questions. That's the important part. Because if you just ask random things, a lot of people are just throwing designers in a room and saying, come up with a bunch of variations. And it's like the spaghetti method, right? We're in Rome, let's try the spaghetti method. Chuck it against the wall and see what sticks. But that doesn't actually work all that well, turns out. So, and this isn't a new idea either. The most serious mistakes are asking the wrong questions. We learned in business school, right? Spend 90% of your time defining the question, and then the rest of the time, the result will appear. So let's take a look at the framework we use called the LIFT model to analyze websites and come up with hypotheses that get powerful results. Okay? Some of you may have seen the LIFT model before. Essentially, what we look at are the 6 conversion factors that influence your conversion rate. The core of it, the most important one, is the value proposition. And the value proposition, a lot of people have definitions for that. David talked earlier about the value you're delivering and how important that is to understand. But what this aims for is understanding what is the most powerful component of the value proposition. What's most important to your visitors? Like Sims 3 saw, just changing the emphasis can make a huge difference. The way I like to think about value proposition is the core set of perceived costs and perceived benefits in taking action. The perceived part's important because for each person viewing your website, that equation will be completely different because their perception goes through their individual lenses. And by testing, you can understand on aggregate which ones are working best. But there's intangibles in there as well as the tangibles. A lot of people think about the features, right? What are the features of my products that I can emphasize to people that's important? But all the intangibles of your brand, your credibility, right? What other people are saying about you can also be tested and improved to improve your overall value proposition. It's not just about features or direct costs. So then all of the other factors, so if you've got a strong value proposition, you've got a lot of potential for improvement. And the other factors support that. So then we look at the relevance of the presentation. You can say, how relevant is this page in their particular flow to where they're coming from and to their needs? So looking at their incoming keywords, right? If you've got search marketing happening is really important there. What words are they using? And can you repeat them on the page to create relevance? Can you create a scent trail that they follow through their whole transaction? And can you use the same words when you're upselling them that they refer to? You can look in your web analytics search keywords to find out what people are searching for within your site, and that shows what they can't find, right? So maybe your presentation isn't relevant to them. Then we look at the clarity of the presentation, the clarity of the call to action, clarity of the eye flow, and the imagery and the copywriting is all important. Factors that reduce conversions, anxieties, anything that creates uncertainty, right? We saw the secure symbols. Distraction, anything that redirects attention from the primary message and the primary call to action. Are there too many options? Do you have upsells and cross-sells on a particular product page or on a product you're trying to sell? Too many options is a killer. Urgency is why should I act now, right? Why should I make this decision now? What's in it for me? And all of these factors you can test. You can test different ways of creating relevance and clarity, reducing distraction and anxiety. Even the tone of the copy can affect urgency. It's not just about offers necessarily. So then what we do is you can take those lift factors and put them into the 7-step testing cycle that I talked about earlier. So this is how it works. We start with a lift analysis. This starts by analyzing each particular page, and there's all kinds of frameworks you can use. The lift is one that helps you to consolidate your thinking. But this gets you focused on the problem areas, and then you convert those into hypotheses that can be tested. And then from there, you create what we call the funnel experiment map. It's really the test design document that consolidates all of the thinking. The problems, the wireframes, the variations, the hypotheses, how you're testing, what your goals are, and that you need to get organizational buy-in on, right? You've got to get your IT involved and make sure that they can actually run the tests. And of course, Cleverbridge has testing included in the transactional side of the funnel, which is great. So once you've got that, then and only then do we talk about graphic design and copywriting. This is where sometimes a lot of people have it backwards. They start with a designer. But this way, you're starting strategically by starting at solving the problems on that funnel for that customer. And then the graphic design and copy just makes it relevant to them and matches the graphic design and all of that stuff of the rest of the experience. So then you go through installation, launching experiments, and monitoring it. And then again, one of the most important steps is analyzing the results and pulling those key insights and understanding why things are, why people are responding the way they do to generate more hypotheses for the next round. This is how you end up with an ongoing, never-ending series of ideas to test. Okay? So let's look at a quick example of how that works. And this was another freemium model for Zoomerang, where they have a survey subscription to create surveys and polls. A lot of marketers are using them. But they had a problem getting people to upgrade or to sign up for the paid versions. They had a huge lag time between their free signups and their paid upgrades. So they needed to improve that. And what we did is tested with the goal of increasing both free and paid. Now, I'll show you how we did this going through the 7 steps, and then we'll show you the results and some of the insights here. So this was the original homepage that we started with. Now you can think about what you may want to change on this homepage. They've got the call to action for signing up for free and the pro account as well. And so let's take a look at some of the lift points that we came up with, and you may recognize some of the things that you've got in your funnel as well. So first of all, some clarity here. The value of that image wasn't really clear to the value proposition, right? Another way of saying that is kind of a weird image. Distraction here, competing calls to action, competing sets of feature points, right? It's not clear where you're supposed to focus on the page. Low contrast copy reduces readability, so there's sort of a mid-tone background. Sign up. Using the word sign up on the call to action implies some commitment, when really it was just a free thing they could access. No credibility indicators on the page. There's different link treatments for different points. The content intangible. It's the copywriting itself was, obviously gone through the marketing department and they'd gotten it all fluffy, and it wasn't really getting to the point. Some plans and pricing, they weren't prominent in the body area, so it was hidden under that tab. And the eye flow is unclear. So you've got, disjointed columns, and some of these little things, minor points, can make a huge difference. And what we find is that a lot of times designers think they're creating emphasis by using graphical embellishments, right? Gradients and those types of things. And a lot of times what they're doing is just blocking the reader from wanting to read the copy because it makes it more difficult. And any additional effort required in understanding the layout and the copy can actually reduce the processing power in our brains to understand the value proposition. Okay, so then we take these points and take the weaknesses and convert them into strengths. So if one lift point says that the image isn't clear, the strength or hypothesis is that removing the confusing image or replacing it will increase the sign-up rate, right? And then we go through all of these points, create a list of hypotheses, and there's a list of 20 hypotheses. And then the art of the strategist sort of comes in here, where you've got to decide which ones do you isolate to generate marketing insights, and which ones do you cluster together to create sort of the swing for the fences large improvements. And there's no real science to that. That's really about marketing intuition and saying which ones are we gonna want to generate those insights from. All right, so let's take a look at a couple examples. These are two variations. Now, A, of course, is our variable cluster. It's totally redesigned from the original. And variation B is one isolation. And all we did here was add in the pricing chart onto the homepage. So, which one won? Now, I won't get you to vote on this one because it's kind of a trick question. The reality was that both of them had the exact same conversion rate lift over the control. They were tied, identical. Right, so we ran the test and we were like, oh man, that's like this thing isn't completing at all. Like we've got these two variations and they're neck and neck. They're both beating the control, statistically significant, 95% confidence improvement over the control. Great, but which one do we choose? When we looked into the revenue, this was the interesting part. That one had a 58% revenue lift. And so what was interesting, they were originally thinking that putting the pricing right on the page, on the home page, this is a major landing page for them, would reduce conversion rate and probably hurt revenue or keep revenue neutral. And what actually happened was the opposite. Conversion stayed the same, revenue dramatically increased because more people were signing up for Pro right away. They didn't need to go through that whole waiting period of signing up for free and then doing the upsell and the email campaigns and all of that stuff that was involved. So now this is interesting for them. They have a marketing insight potentially about their customers. They can move beyond that now to understanding why. Why did that happen? Well, maybe we don't need to hide the fact that we're a paid service. Maybe people are actually willing to go and they just need to understand what the benefits are. All right, so how do you get insights from conversion optimization? I've alluded to some of the elements of it, but it's all about moving from the what to the why. And a lot of people, when they're testing, are testing for tactics. They're saying, does an orange button or a green button work better? Right? Does this headline or that headline work better? And that's a what question. But when you move to thinking about why, you start to really get into the powerful insights. There's a nugget hidden behind there that you have to look at. And sometimes it takes several rounds of testing to see if there's you can build on that, right? Why does this one work better than the other one? Maybe it's because the pricing wasn't unclear. Maybe pricing was hard to find. Or maybe it's because the customers really aren't that price sensitive. Or maybe you're reaching a different target audience than you thought. And you can start to test more into those hypotheses to find out more confirmation. So the final thing I want to talk about here is the biggest conversion optimization secret, and I'm going to tell you what that is. And it's a hard one for me to reveal because it's something we've been hiding for a long time. It's true. Okay, so we test all the time, but not all tests win. And this is something, we like to talk about the big winning case studies, right? We talk about the triple-digit conversion rate lifts, and these are exciting. And it's true, most of the tests win. These are fun results to see when you've got, 162% conversion rate lift. And yeah, in 2012, 89% of our tests were winners, and that's fun. Like those are the good ones. But the problem was, what used to keep me awake at night was that other 11%, right? Why did those ones lose? And why were our best ideas not working? And it would just drive me nuts. But it doesn't keep me awake at night anymore, since we've developed an understanding that, it's okay to have these frustrating tests that go on forever, because they're not really losers. This example, what we did was we looked at these two variations which were in isolation against each other. And this test was going on for weeks, and it was just bugging the hell out of me. But by looking at them, what we said is, there's something there. It's not statistically significant. And so we don't have, an insight that we can report back to the client and say, here's what we know works. But we can generate a hypothesis. And then the following test, we can get a big win. And so, we don't get frustrated by these anymore. I mean, here's one again, where this was just going on forever. One was slightly outperforming the control, one was underperforming, but the differences between these two variations was interesting. And so by generating another hypothesis, you could come out with a big win. So, for example, right, this EA test, what we know is that we've got several isolations. A versus the control is a dramatic change. B versus A is an isolation. C versus B is an isolation. So we can get some indication of what's going on there. And it's even more interesting when you've got some dramatic, marketing insight isolations that are going on. So then in the follow-up test to that annoying one, we got this big win. And so, everything really becomes a winner. So that's the good news. All right. So we've talked about conversion gurus and conversion ninjas, and what does it take to get there? I guess the whole punchline, takeaway from the presentation is nothing beats testing experience. We were talking earlier today about hiring people, right? And the best thing you can find are people that have the right attitude, and you can train them in the other stuff. The hard part is finding people that have the right attitude and tons of tests under their belt. And that's what you want to get as fast as possible with your team, getting them testing a ton of things to find out, how you can apply these insights to other areas of your marketing and your business. So I'll leave you with one more question, because every marketing presentation needs a lolcat.